And so today we receive yet again another very sad story that the Major General who was abducted with his wife some 2 weeks ago, that is Major General Rabe Abubakar, died in the custody of the bad boys in Katsina State. According to information circulating in the social media, his corpse was handed over by the bandits to the government of Katsina State, and his wife was handed over alive. Barring anything from the statement issued by the Katsina State government, the general will be buried later today, Saturday, in Kaduna. For years, Nigerians have looked up to the military as the ultimate shield against insecurity. When terrorists attack villages, when bandits attack communities, when kidnappers seize innocent citizens, the military is often called in as a last line of defense. But what happens when the protectors themselves become targets and need protection? What happens when majors, lieutenant colonels, brigadier generals, and even major generals are killed, kidnapped, ambushed, or hunted by the same criminal groups that they were trained to defeat? And perhaps the most unfortunate of all, if senior military officers are no longer safe in Nigeria, what does that mean for the ordinary citizens? Tonight, on the other side, we examine the disturbing trend that raises difficult questions about the future of security in Africa's most populous country. My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. This is The Other Side. 20 years ago, insecurity in Nigeria looked very different. Most threats were localized. Communal conflicts, armed robbery, police violence, and occasional forays of Chadian rebels into northern Nigeria, and also some gendarmeries from the Cameroon into certain parts of Nigeria. Today, the landscape has changed dramatically. The emergence of Boko Haram in the northeast transformed Nigeria's security environment. Then came ISWAP, then heavily armed bandit networks, then mass kidnappings, then criminal gangs controlling forests and rural territories. Over time, violence spread across multiple regions, from Yobe to Borno, from Zamfara to Katsina, from Kaduna to Niger State, from Taraba to Benue and Plateau and Kaduna State. Entire communities have been displaced. Thousands of civilians have been killed. Millions have been forced from their homes. Yet one of the most significant developments has received less public attention: the increasing targeting and hitting of military personnel themselves, not just soldiers, not just patrol teams, but senior officers, commanders, strategists, leaders, men who spent decades studying warfare and security. The death of a senior military officer carries certain consequences far beyond personal tragedies. Every officer represents years of training, operational experience, institutional memory, leadership capacity. And of course, it is well known that Nigerian military officers from the rank of colonels are very well trained. When one falls, the military loses more than a soldier. It loses knowledge. It loses expertise. It loses leadership. Over the years, Nigeria has witnessed multiple cases where senior officers become casualties of insurgency and terrorism. Some died while leading operations. Others were killed during attacks on military formations. Some died attempting to defend their troops. Others found themselves caught in the increasing sophisticated ambushes and even kidnappings, as happened in the case of the retired general who was kidnapped with his wife and brought back dead by the bandits. One of the recurring patterns has been the evolution of insurgent attacks. Gone are the days when armed groups operated with rudimentary weapons. Today's terrorists and criminal networks often display improvised explosive devices, anti-aircraft weapons, drones for surveillance, and sometimes drones for attack, sophisticated communication systems. Recently, camps of the bandits and terrorists were found with hundreds of Starlink antennas. And the critical question is this: if non-state actors are becoming more sophisticated every year, is Nigeria's security architecture evolving at the same pace? For military officers, capture by hostile forces has always been one of the greatest fears. History teaches us that being taken alive by insurgents often places individuals at enormous risk. Nigeria has seen disturbing cases where military officers and retired officers were abducted by criminal groups. Perhaps one of the most widely discussed involved the killing of retired Major General Idris Alkali. In 2018, the retired officer disappeared while traveling through Plateau State. Weeks of uncertainty followed. Eventually, investigators discovered his remains in the well. The discovery shocked the nation. The case demonstrated something many Nigerians had begun to fear. Retirement no longer guaranteed safety. Years later, another senior retired military officer, Major General Tiga, would face a different ordeal after being abducted by bandits in Katsina before eventually regaining freedom. These incidents raised difficult questions. If individuals with military training and experience can be kidnapped, who exactly is safe? One of the most troubling developments in recent years is one of the most troubling in recent years is that retirement no longer appears to reduce risk. Retired officers have become attractive targets for several reasons. Some are perceived as wealthy, especially that the Nigerian media and public perceive that military officers cut away with so much money. Others simply become victims of opportunity. Violence in Nigeria is no longer confined to battlefields. It has entered communities, roads, homes, farms, places of worship, and daily life. Many retired officers now take precautions once associated with active military operations, road planning, security escorts, restricted movements, risk assessments. Yet millions of ordinary Nigerians do not have such protections. And the critical question is, if retired generals increasingly worry about their personal security, what options exist for teachers, traders, farmers, students, and civil servants? This story is not really about generals. It is about everyone, because the same roads traveled by military officers are used by ordinary citizens. The same forests used by kidnappers surround communities. The same criminal networks that target officers also target farmers, students, health workers, clergy, and traders. The question facing Nigerians today is not whether insecurity exists. The question is whether the current trajectory is sustainable. Can communities continue to absorb these shocks? Can businesses continue to operate under growing security costs? Can agriculture thrive when farmers fear entering their fields? Can investors remain confident when headlines increasingly focus on violence? Young Nigerians are asking these questions every day. Many members of Gen Z have never known a Nigeria completely free from major security challenges. Some, and a large number, were born during riots and protests and killings, and many have grown to become adults, seeing the same headlines, seeing the same reports about killings, and increasing stories about kidnappings of even people who before were thought to be untouchable, that is, the military officers. For some, insecurity has become normal, but should it be? To be fair, Nigerian security forces have achieved significant successes. Numerous terrorist commanders have been neutralized. Hostages have been rescued. Territories once controlled by insurgents have been reclaimed. Major attacks have been disrupted. Yet the persistence of violence suggests deeper questions. Analysts frequently point to several factors: intelligence gaps, porous borders, difficult terrains, weapons trafficking, economic hardship, youth unemployment, weak criminal justice systems, technology deficits, and coordination challenges among security agencies. No single factor explains the problem, and no single solution is likely to solve it. And several critical questions still remain. Are enough resources being invested in intelligence? Are security agencies receiving the technologies they need? Are communities sufficiently involved in early warning systems? Why do criminal groups continue operating for years? How should success actually be measured? By territory reclaimed? By attacks prevented? And how does the public know which attacks have been prevented? Or by citizens feeling safe? Every fallen officer leaves behind more than a military record. They leave behind families, friends, colleagues, communities, and lessons. Their experiences remind us that insecurity is not an abstract policy issue. It is human consequences. The deaths of senior officers reveal the evolving nature of the threats facing Nigeria. They highlight the importance of mobility, technology, preparedness, and adaptability. And most important, they remind us that security cannot be viewed solely as a military responsibility. Communities matter, institutions matter, leadership matters, and citizens matter. And this is why it is important to remind the citizens in the communities affected that the peace accords that they signed with bandits will do them more harm in the long run than if they had stayed without reaching accords with the bandits. Because bandits and these terrorists stay in areas where they are not affected by security to stage attacks in other areas. And once you give them the impression that you are afraid of them or that they are more powerful than the military and the government authority, they will no longer fear. They will keep increasing their attacks and using the areas that have agreed to live in peace with them to plan and stage attacks on other areas. The story of Nigeria's fallen military officers is not simply a military story. It is a national story, national tragedies happening too often. A story about resilience, a story about sacrifice, a story about a country searching for answers. If highly trained military officers can become targets, if retired generals can be abducted and killed, if commanders can fall in battle, what does that tell us about the broader security environment facing millions of Nigerians? The future of Nigeria's security will not be determined by weapons alone. It will depend on intelligence. It will depend on political will by the government to address the issues properly. It will depend on economic opportunity, community resilience, and public trust. The question remains, can Nigeria build a future where neither the generals nor ordinary citizens have to live in fear? That conversation belongs to all of us. It's sad we lost another general. It is sad that several young children are still in the hands of kidnappers. It's even sadder that in the last 1 week, several parents have had to rush to schools to take their children away from school because of the fear of kidnapping. Of course, Boko Haram started as anti-school, anti-education project. Does it mean that Boko Haram is succeeding far beyond its wildest imaginations, the imaginations of its founding fathers? Because now the fear has become nationwide. If you found this discussion informative, share it with others. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to improving Nigeria's security today? Leave your thoughts in our comments and subscribe to us for fact-based analysis, documentaries, and conversations that matter. I am Rimamnde Shawulu. Thank you for watching. Until next time, please stay safe, stay informed, and stay engaged. Check our description for how you can join our WhatsApp group to receive notifications about any new video.